Welcome to the Master Cars Pro channel. Today we'll talk about the problems and weaknesses of Volvo S40. As a replacement for the original Volvo S40, the 2004 version was very much more modern, abandoning the car's dated platform, which was shared with Mitsubishi in favor of the one from the contemporary Ford Focus. The S40 isn't quite as sharp to drive as the Ford, but it still handles well, and the ride is still firm but controlled. Perhaps the best thing about the S40 though is its floating dashboard. This takes its name from the slim center console, which is attached at the top and the bottom, but is otherwise freestanding, a design that has barely aged to this day. The front seats are very comfortable too, but the S40 is quite cramped. To improve crash protection, Volvo decided to move the front firewall back compared with its position in the Focus, and thereby compromise legroom. However, the S40 is one of the safest cars of its kind as a result. Thanks to its Focus origins, the Volvo S40 can be run quite cheaply as long as you avoid the higher prices for servicing and parts charged by main dealers. 1.6 D2 DRV diesel should cost barely any more in daily expenses than a more modern model, and even the 2.0 liter diesel is decently fragile. Both diesel engines require a cambered change at 96,000 miles, but it's worth having them inspected well before that, especially in the case of the 1.6, which can leak oil onto its cambered from the oil pump. More serious is the requirement for a diesel particulate filter service at 72,000 miles, which can cost as much as 1,000 pounds. It's also worth pointing out that cars fitted with the larger 18N alloy wheels will tend to go through their tires more quickly, with changes needed as soon as 15,000 miles in some cases. Higher mileage cars are actually more desirable than lower mileage ones if you're buying a diesel. That's because the diesel particulate filter can clog up on low miles cars and is very pricey to rectify. The 1.8 liter flex fuel cars are best avoided, and they were designed to be able to use E85 bioethanol fuel, but they have high CO2 emissions and fuel consumption and are therefore much more expensive to run than a diesel. The ignition system is the primary cause of concern. The S40 uses a chunky plastic electronic ignition key that goes into a slot behind the steering wheel high up on the dashboard, so that the heavy ignition barrel, usually located on the steering column, is kept away from the driver's knees in a crash. But if the key feels loose or wobbly in the slot, that's a bad sign. Because both the key slot are expensive to replace, the central locking system can also give trouble if the key has become damaged or has been dropped. Another thing to look for is creaking seats. You'd think that loose runners would be to blame, but in reality it's the internals of the seats that break, and the only remedy is replacement, which one often makes sense to do from a financial perspective. Check the dashboard warning lights closely to make sure they all illuminate when the ignition is turned on, and then go out soon after the engine starts. Of particular interest are the diesel particulate filter light in the diesels, and another for the anti-lock brakes. The latter's control unit has been known to fail, and it's very expensive fix. The 1.6 liter diesel needs a steady diet of high quality engine oil, or it tends to sludge up. Its head with phased oil. Both the water and diesel pumps on this engine are also weak points, and if there's any slack in the travel of the clutch pedal on manual gearbox cars, then that master cylinder will probably need replacing. Flickering warning lights on the dashboard usually mean that the connection to the engine's computer, which runs behind the passenger footwell, has become loose. On cars fitted with a sunroof, um, check the carpets for any dampness, as the drainage holes can become blocked, leading to rainwater running down the inside of the window pillars. If the car looks lopsided or feels as if it's leaning one way or the other during a test drive, the problem is most likely a cracked suspension spring. You're best off buying a late model post 2007 facelift car. Not only did that bring with it some interesting interior finishes, including an attractive unfinished wood trim, it also tidied up the exterior styling and saw falls in CO2 emissions and fuel consumption. Those buying with economy in mind should seek out a 1.6-liter D2 diesel in drive trim, which aided engine stop-start technology and some aerodynamic tweaks to score sub 120 grams per kilometer emissions and the potential for 60 mpg. The best overall version though is the 147 bhp 2.0 liter 5-cylinder D3 150 HP diesel, which has impressive performance and still reasonable emissions and consumptions, on top of which this Volvo design engine is generally more reliable than the Ford Source 1.6. In terms of size, the S40 competed with the Audi A3 and BMW 1 Series, neither of which were available as 4-door saloons, and conversely, the S40 was never made available as a 5-door hatchback. You could make the case that the Volvo's 4-door body is more desirable, but the Audi and BMW are both more practical. Theoretically, the second generation Ford Focus, which uses the same mechanicals, which borrowed the sporty T5 S40's 2.5-liter to 12 bhp turbo engine for the ST model, could be thought of as a more affordable competitor, but it's less premium in look and feel. Saab's 923 saloon was always slightly bigger than the S40, but was priced at a comparable level at the time and offers a similar safety select Scandinavian approach. It wasn't available with the 1.6-liter diesel engine though, and is more expensive to run. Well, if you are the owner of this car, then please describe the problems that you had to face during the operation of the car. Perhaps it is your feedback that'll help viewers when choosing a car. That's it for today. Thanks everyone for attention. It isn't much work for you to subscribe to the channel. See you soon.